Hello everybody, it is I, CrystalFlame360, or if you prefer, just Crystal, and welcome to this small corner of the internet where I just do whatever I feel like doing. Today's video is going to be one of those rambling ones again, in a similar vein to my opinions video and list of fears video. If you read the title, it's just going to cover the weird, the odd, and the wonderful things I did in The Sims 2 when I was younger. In short, it's just stories of when I played The Sims 2 as a young'un. Most of them should provide you with a laugh somewhere, but if not, well, I'm aware I have an odd sense of humour anyway, so let's get started. I'll begin with a little gross one. Erin Beaker had a daughter with her eldest son. I'll give you a second to take that in. So this happened when I was 7, I believe, and at the time I was not aware that impregnating your Sims with the tombstone of life and death would result in them giving birth to a gender-bent clone of themselves. So, I'd keep impregnating Erin with herself, and she had 4 boys, as I wouldn't stop until she had a girl. Child number 5 was a girl, so I stopped and played somewhat normally. I had aging off, so... For some reason, I wanted to look in the family tree, and Erin's looked fine. It was when I checked the daughters I was mortified. Yeah, her dad was also her brother. Safe to say, I did not touch the family again after that. So you may be thinking, how did you mess up that badly? Simple answer, I must have misclicked something, but either way, ew. The second one I feel is a strange one. I was terrified of the Spectre house, Olive, and especially Ophelia. I should have mentioned this in my fears video, but I wanted to include it here. It happened after playing them for the first night. In my case, I exited the lot after Ophelia died of fright and saw the Grim Reaper spawn onto the lot, which cemented what had happened. I don't think I used the right phrase, but we'll continue anyway. I hadn't played them for very long, and I was scared to touch the mouse after the ghosts had spawned, now that I was good at the game anyway. So naturally, needs got very low and poor, and Ophelia passed away. I quit without saving and never looked back. I was 6 or 7 at the time. I think I mentioned that when my sister wasn't policing the base game HUDs that I used to play the Smiths a lot. I think I'll mention quickly that I played with aging off all the time, so nobody aged. So I'd played them for a while, a real world hour or 2, and Ophelia generated as a walk by and rung the doorbell. For some reason, younger me thought she was going to bring the ghosts to the Smiths, so I promptly ran to get my sister to get rid of her. Fortunately, she told me that I was being silly and that it wasn't possible for her to bring the ghosts with her, but I still didn't want her in the house. I did eventually get over it a couple of hours later and had Johnny invite her over, but that fear may have stemmed from the fact that the ghosts were targeting Ophelia on the Spectre lot, so I somehow thought they were tied to her. I was a very imaginative and weird child. So, I stacked children with the move objects on sheet. It was a frightening experience when they disappeared. I know how to fix it now, but back in the day I didn't, as I was definitely 6 here, so not very knowledgeable on the ins and outs of the game. This next one I'm not sure many people had done, but I did this a lot. I'd always make a pretend school, so I'd make an adult woman, 7 children, and I'd build a school with literally no roof. I'd either do that or I'd put them into a random lot from the lot bin, and I just put like a bunch of chairs in front of another chair, you know how it kind of is in school. And I just kind of make the kids sit there and the teacher sit in the opposite one, and I just imagine she's teaching the children stuff, and in doing that I would not send them to normal school, so as a result grades suffered and the social worker came and took all the kids away. Did that stop me from doing this again though? No, it didn't, as I did it again, but this time I actually allowed the children to go to school, and I'd kind of pretend this quote school they lived at was like an extra after school club or something like that. But they didn't do the homework though, so in came the social worker again. Yeah, I did not learn from that. So, 3rd time's a charm, and eventually I was informed that children did have to do their homework, otherwise the social worker would come. So, of course, naturally, they did their homework and then they sat around like a bunch of ninnies. The hunger got low though, then in came social worker again. I never learned, like the social worker was like a friend I didn't like, you know? Following this next story, which I almost got confused about halfway telling the last one, was, yes, social worker related again. So, while one of the children was getting taken away in the last story, the social worker's path got obstructed somehow, and the kid just teleported out next to the social worker. Now, this fascinated me. Like, this really interested me. So, as a result, I'd begun making a bunch of families with 1 adult woman and 7 children, plunk them into a house, and I'd put the kids into a wall, like around a wall with no doors, kill the adult, and then we'll just watch what happened. Like, and I did that for hours. Like, I just found the teleportation effect interesting, and I just imagined from then on that the social work had like some sort of powers, like she was magical or something like that. And I was just like, cool. I think actually somewhat like the social worker after that for some reason, because I found her cool. I found her blue car a bit cool too, but then Nightlife came out and then you could get it. And I thought I could make the social worker, but no. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is something we've all done, but messing around with the object NPCs. Yes, I did that when I was like 8 or 9. I tried to add the Grim Reaper to the house, was disheartened to see when nothing happened, tried to add the hula zombie, tried to, you know, I just wanted the Grim Reaper to have a child, you know, and I eventually did accomplish that, except it was getting somebody pregnant with the Grim Reaper while he was reaping a soul. And yes, the result was offspring that, well, a daughter that had, you know, I think it was template 2, black hair, blue eyes, well, light blue eyes, and the S2 skin tone. And Yeah. It didn't do anything bad, but then again, the computer had to be reformatted regularly, meaning The Sims 2 had to be reinstalled, so I never saw the aftermath of any of the messing around with the object NPCs or anything like that, but the Grim Reaper was a major one I messed around with. So this story is a relatively it's kind of incest related again, but it was unintentional on my end. So when I was 8 or 9, I finally got to experience Pleasant View again. I may have actually been 10 to be more accurate, but either way I got to experience Pleasant View for the first time in years. And yeah, I still had my really wonky playstyle where I just did whatever and never really followed any particular rules. And during that time, Cassandra and Don had a daughter. I think I called her Casey or something. I made Casey have a daughter with herself after I moved Don and Cassandra in the family bin. Never touched them again, by the way. And by the way, they got pregnant with the tombstone of L&D, because yeah. So yeah, Casey got pregnant with herself and had a son called Andy Goth. And I got Andy pregnant with himself after I moved Casey into the family bin, and he had a daughter called Amy. Now, I was playing Andy and a child, Amy, in like a little house in Pleasant View, and I wanted him to have a wife, and so I was looking into the add neighbour option with the tombstone of L&D and saw the name Bella. Now, I'd always liked the name Bella, and I was like, oh, Bella sounds like a pretty name. I'll add her to the family. And yes, this was Bella Goth. So I added her to the family, and of course, I was actually quite proficient with cheats when I was little. I was using cheats since I was in pull-ups, but that's what having older siblings kind of does. They teach you the ropes, you know? And yeah, they fell in love, and, they got married, and after they got married was when I had to go to bed, so of course I quit the lot, saved and quit the lot and all that jazz because I had to go to bed. And the next day I was excited to get back to this family because I had plans, right? Andy and Bella were going to have a few more kids together. Amy was going to finally have this mother figure she'd always wanted, And as soon as I loaded the lot up, those dreams were immediately crushed. Because as you know, if you're really into your Bella Goth lore, is that there is a way to restore her, but she has a death token, and that death token doesn't actually activate properly until you add her to the active household, save, then quit. And yeah, so naturally when I loaded the lot up, she was transparent, which confused me. She'd also had like a blue glow to her too, and she was transparent, so I was really confused. When I think back on it now, it gives me Corpse Bride vibes, because she was in the wedding dress. But yeah, she was like full on transparent, and I was really confused. I was just like, what the heck is going on? So I unpaused, and then she turns, facing the camera as Sims do when they're doing this particular thing, faded away while the message, Bella has died on another lot, and I was scared. I was both scared and sad. And I think I tried for like an hour or something like that, quitting without saving, reloading a lot just to try and save her, and eventually I did realise that it wasn't worth it. Now, it made me thinking of the obvious bit of like, aren't you not going to address the elephant in the room? And yes, I'm going to now actually. Yes, I did realise years later, more so last year when I was thinking back on this particular event, that yes, Andy did in fact marry his great grandmother. So, yes. I thought about this recently and I was like, oh, I did not realise. Oh no! So, in a way, kind of a blessing in disguise, but he was kind of stuck in a marriage with her because they were still married on the family tree, so. Sweet Home Alabama, I guess. Just, that was a really awkward one. So from a very young age, the teenage life stage had always been my favourite. I think the teenage life stage is still my favourite, but it was that much of my favourite that usually if there was like, I think I mentioned once or twice before that with the Broke family, I'd always load it up and then I'd immediately move Brandy and Beau out and just play Dustin on his own. And, you know, I'd played him until it got too much, and eventually I did move him back in with his mother and some Cass sim I made that she married and had an extra kid with. Yeah, but I did the same thing with Juliet Cap too in Veronaville, and I really liked Juliet Cap when I was younger. I don't have no idea why. Like, I think I liked her that much that I made a bunch of template 1 copies of her in Cass and then killed her off. I was a really weird kid now that I'm thinking about it now, but yeah, I think I'd also went through this thing where I killed a Goneril repeatedly. I think maybe been because I just found the death animations interesting, and as far as the recreating Juliet went, I think I just wanted to see if I could recreate Sims, but either way, yeah. I think it was also a way to get her into other hoods too, because I wasn't aware you could put her in the Lots and Houses bin, and then, you know, either way, that's not safe anyway, so I'm kind of glad I wasn't aware that method existed. But yeah, it was, I did move Concert, Hermia and Tybalt out and just play Juliet on her own, which as you'd expect got boring, so I just stopped playing her after like an hour. Either that or I just kind of flip-flopped between what family I found interesting. I don't know. The time Mrs. Crumplebottom destroyed the entire game install. So this was more of something my sister did, but I did witness it happen, and it was when, you know, we first ever got Nightlife, and she really wanted her sim to become a vampire, and she spent hours trying to find one on a community lot and befriending them, and eventually she accomplished that, but it was at the cost of the vampire going on a biting frenzy. And of course, one of the sims he attacked was our lovely old lady, Mrs. Crumplebottom, and she went through the animations and of course didn't show any signs of having been converted. So, but we thought nothing much of it because, you know, we were like, oh right, she doesn't have to become a vampire, she's like immune or something. And we didn't think much of it because again we didn't know much about corruption or anything like that at the time, because again I think I'm at this point I may have maybe been like 7 or 8 and she may have been 10 or 11, so we weren't really well versed in that sort of thing. And it worked quickly, like it was fine for the rest of the time we played it. Turned the game off, and then when my sister went to boot the game up again the next day, it would not work, it'd keep crashing. So my dad had to reinstall it, which was fun, but yeah. That was a bit of an awkward one. And this last one is just more of a weird quirk I used to have when I was younger, where every teenage friend, like every teenager I created, had to be friends with Meadowthea. Every teenager I made, they had to be best friends with Meadowthea. She was one of my favourite townies when I was a kid, and everyone just had to like her for some reason. It was interesting. But yeah, they're all the stories I can think of at the moment. I did have one literally on the tip of my tongue, but it just will not come out. So if I wind up remembering it at some point, I'll probably just mention it in a follow-up video and go, okay, I remember this video if you've seen it. Yeah, so this is the story I didn't mention before. But either way, this one was like a pretty strange one. Just me stating a bunch of stuff that happened to me when I was a kid in relation to The Sims 2, but you know, it's The Sims 2, it's probably gonna have Sims 2 gameplay going on to keep you entertained if I'm boring you. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video, by the way, and yeah, if you like the video, you can like it. No one's you know, forcing you, so you can if you want to, but you don't have to. And if you're interested to see what happens, what happens in the future, but I guess it's something like that, isn't it? So if you just want to see any other type of content, I use that term loosely because I don't think it's as good as it could be. Yeah, that's how you sell your content, isn't it? You just kind of turn around and go, yeah, it's not very good, but you can... That is not how you sell your channel. It's not how you sell your channel. Yeah, it's a lottery whether or not it's good or not. Either way, if what I do is your cup of tea, if you're interested in, you know, seeing more of this sort of stuff, you can subscribe if you would like to. For the most part, I think I'll just do a bunch of random miscellaneous things and stuff like that. You know, I make random talking videos like this, where I just talk about random stuff in relation to what I'm interested in at the moment, which is The Sims 2, Sims 2 in particular. I do SimPE tutorials if I can think of something to do tutorials about, and I do have a Let's Play series called A Strangely Pleasant View going on at the moment, with another one maybe in the works depending on how I feel. So, without further ado, if you decided to stay, see you next time, and thank you for watching the video.